The next topic I just wanted to go on to is ethics and safeguarding. It's a big topic. I'm briefly going to start off with this. There is this idea that actual generative AI kind of makes up things. And it's wrongly, in my opinion, it's wrongly called hallucinations. I mean, if we're talking about not anthropomizing it, then we can't say that it's hallucinating because that would still be the same thing. But technically, that's what people calls it. And it can come up with the wrong information. It will just make it up. Something like it could say that 1 + 1 = 11. I mean, that kind of does seem reasonable, right? If you had no concept of numbers and stuff like that. So that same concept happens. And actually, because all of this data is trained on the internet, and because the internet is relatively biased and contains a lot of the misinformation, its data is also a little bit biased. So we have to be very, very careful about the accuracy of this. And it's not a matter of just fixing one sort of thing. It's a really deep-rooted problem with the technology. So you have to take that into consideration. And we must also do some really key things. Avoid putting personal data and personal information of our students and ourselves into the generative AI tools, because that whatever input you put in is then fed back into the system to keep training it, for it to be kept on learning. But it's not enough for us to try and stop our students using it. I think that's a completely wrong thing to do. And actually, we need to be more transparent. We need to be actually using it in the classroom, in front of our students, to show them what it is to actually the best practices. The more you use it, you'll start picking up on some very key things. When you start getting work handed in and suddenly it's in an American English, and it's like, why is this in an American English? What have you suddenly started talking in American for? And that's kind of the key thing. It doesn't matter how many times you ask generative AI, it will keep on giving it to you in that format. So you'll start seeing these little things. But then when you start talking about its use, you can then build that academic honesty, that sort of discussion, and actually start thinking about, well, how can this tool actually enhance or augment the teaching and the learning that I'm already doing? And if you're thinking, oh, I could just use an AI detector, they are considerably unreliable. And either giving you a false positive, like you may not have used AI, and the detector may say, oh, this has all been written by AI. They're not as reliable. But that's what I say. But the JCQ have given out this guideline, very simply saying that if someone takes a work from generative AI, claims it as their own, that is cheating. I mean, that's fairly understandable. And if a student does use generative AI for their pieces of work, then they should reference that. And you can actually direct reference the chat that's just happened in there, or the sources that comes through it. Talking about sources, what I'd like you to now do is the next part of this. You have just used generative AI. You may have used ChatGPT. How do you know what was written is accurate? So the next phase is I would like you to ask, ask in ChatGPT, this is quite cute how they do it. Ask for the sources from the response in the previous task. Ask it, where are the sources? Where did you get this information from? If you want to go to that deepen stage, take whatever response you got and start using a tool called Perplexity AI. Perplexity AI, have a go at using that one. And if you want to go further, what guidelines can you create that are student-friendly? Looking at the JCQ guidelines, have another go at that. I'll give you another 2 minutes to have a little go and see if you can find how your responses are credible. Okay. Are there any questions? Any discoveries? Just to let you know that the music was made in about 30 seconds using an AI generator. I literally said, my name's Cameron Mohammed. I'm going to be doing a talk about AI fluency to teachers at Fulham Cross Academy, FCA. And within 30 seconds, it gave me about 3 tracks. So that's a really interesting tool. I think that's from Suno, S-U-N-O. Is there anything anybody would like to share or feel confident to share, or something they find quite ridiculous or quite informative at the moment? Anybody? Yes.
Just like I did the sort of the deeper one, just I use ChatGPT a lot for letters and just all that type of stuff. And I put the task in, and it gave me a lot of quite detailed. So I said, can you just write it in 10 short bullet points for a 14-year-old? And it then changed all the text into 10 really clear and concise bullet points, which you then could give to a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. How many? Put your hands up. How many of you use Perplexity? A couple. Yeah. You'll notice with Perplexity AI, from the get-go, it says, these are the sources of information that I've taken this from. You can then select and deselect sources of information for that as well. And I was just talking to Mike about the GCQ guidelines. I do feel there's going to be a breaking point where we will turn around and be like, these Gen AI tools will become acceptable, referenced, and usable in assessment processes. Say, for instance, coursework, say, for instance, in examinations. And I give the analogy of when calculators were first in place and how everyone said, oh, we're not going to be able to do arithmetic anymore, this is going to be a disastrous. And then what education did was they created a maths paper with non-calculator and a calculator paper. So have that in your mind as we go forward.